When you're taking the brush out of the Underglaze bottle, just run the extra off of the lip of the Underglaze bottle. Then what you're going to do is just paint on one layer. Notice the difference between the Underglaze orange that's dried, it looks chalky, and then when you paint on the Underglaze, it's pretty translucent, you can barely see it. Just trust the process and trust that when it dries, you'll be able to see it a little bit thicker. So again, when you paint it on, it's not going to really look like much, but then as it starts to dry and the clay absorbs it, it's going to turn a chalkier version of itself. You can see the areas that I just painted on are already drying. After a layer is dry, then you can go ahead and put another underglaze on top of it. So I wanted to do the lips red, so here I have the red. Notice that I'm taking the extra and just rolling it off the edge of the jar, and I'm painting it on. I have to wait for each layer to dry first, so I'm waiting for the red to dry, and you can already see the stuff that I applied to the bottom lip is already chalky and dry, so it dries really, really fast. After you do one layer, you can go back in, and then you can apply a second layer. Just a reminder, as the underglaze dries, it is going to turn this chalky color, and you'll be able to see how much glaze you've put on after it dries. Be careful not to overwork a section just because our pieces haven't been fired yet. If you overwork it too much, what you'll be actually doing is adding water to your piece, and it's going to dissolve the clay underneath. So again, only work on layers that are dry. After I finish this layer, I'm going to move on to white, and notice that I'm using a much smaller brush. So I'm painting on one layer at a time, the white, and I'll probably go back in and do a second layer. Then I'm also going to do the rind because the orange is completely dry now. And don't forget, you can do little details like highlights. So I'm also going to put highlights on the lip now that the red is dry. If you make a mistake with one underglaze color, so for instance, if you accidentally paint an area that you didn't mean to, it's an underglaze, so it's just colored clay. Wait for that layer to dry, go back to the original color, and then just layer it on top of it. It's not going to show. The only exception is if you're trying to layer a light color on top of a dark color, in which case you might just have to do a couple more layers. So here I'm waiting for the black to dry. Once it's completely absorbed, I am adding a little highlight, and my piece is done.